Welcome to the Breaking Orbit podcast. I'm your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I've been experiencing and the challenges that we've been dealing with, that you can deal with when it comes to being uber successful, um, whatever that definition is for you. What are some of the challenges that you can face? How can you overcome those hurdles and learn to press through to be able to accomplish more than you ever thought possible, but for it to actually mean something that you never thought it would mean? We're going to dive into that in just a second. Breaking Orbit podcast starts now. So one of the things that I've been experiencing lately is just this feeling that I wasn't prepared for. And I wasn't prepared for it because obviously I've never been in this position before. Had some amazing things that were happening. Some incredible opportunities were coming through. And yet I was finding it difficult, a challenge to really enjoy them, or when I would share them with people, I was really just minimizing what they were. And ordinarily, there's this balance between bragging about the things that you got going on, and then there's the other side of it, which is not even leaning into it or playing into it, right? And understanding why that's important. And so because of that, I was experiencing something that I realized that happens with my clients, but because it's internal, we don't always recognize it for ourselves. Before I get into that, let me make sure I acknowledge those of you who are stopping by here for a second. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, drop a comment, let us know where you're watching from, what you're experiencing or discovering through this conversation. Hopefully it's valuable for you, because I think it's one that's not really talked about enough, if at all. One of the components that I see for a lot of leaders is the loneliness that comes with leading, with leadership, the loneliness that comes with winning. Because by definition, the winners are the ones that are at top. They're the ones that are at the front. They cross the finish line first. They have the most, whatever the case may be, however we categorize it in the world. Everybody can identify with being the underdog. Everybody can identify with the feeling that comes with losing and the misery that comes along with that, the feeling that comes along with failure. But one of the things that many people don't realize about winners is that even when they're winning, they don't feel like a winner. Like, winning isn't just a tangible accomplishment. Winning is also a feeling. And so sometimes people develop addictions, medicate themselves, or whatever the case may be, as a way to manufacture the feeling of winning when you're experiencing that loneliness, that emptiness, that is a stark contrast to what you expected to be experiencing. Because doing at the highest level, performing at the highest level, accomplishing the greatest things that human beings can accomplish are things that are considered rarities. On this podcast, we talk about everyone having a gift and their ability to be able to do this. But even if you accept that premise, this belief, this framework that says that everyone has the capacity to do it, the reality is that most people won't. Most people will never achieve at the highest possible level. And when I work with people, helping them to understand that balance, the cognitive dissonance that comes when you have accomplished great things and things are going your way, and yet the lack of euphoria, that dopamine hit that you used to get when you were all along the journey and you were getting these big wins, suddenly it comes less and less. You feel like you have to do more and more. And one of the biggest things that people experience is the challenge of trying to continue to be successful without being reckless, but also not being stupid and blowing up everything you have because you're or conserving what you have without being complacent. And that's a balance that is very difficult to chase, because what happens with most people is that when they get to a certain level of comfort or a certain level of success, they settle, they slow down, they calm down. They don't keep pressing forward. They don't keep challenging themselves. It's very easy to stay there. And that level of comfort is much lower than our capacity or ability to succeed at the highest possible level. But then there are those who are built for the greatest of the great, right? I believe that we all are, but there are those who really lean into that. That's their identity, the high performers, the high achievers. And when they are presented with the reality that they have succeeded, that they have done the thing that they set out to do, they've accomplished this goal, they've crushed this goal, they did it faster, they did it more powerfully, they blew past it, whatever the case may be. You're sitting there in that moment, you realize it didn't feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. I'll give you an example of maybe that you could recognize from the outside. You look at Will Smith in the Oscars last year, right? Will Smith had been nominated for an Oscar many, many times. Well, several times. And on the biggest night of his life, the night when he finally won, he had the biggest debacle personally and career-wise that he'd ever experienced. So he walks up on stage and smacks Chris Rock and essentially burned down all the years, the decades of goodwill, the decades of accomplishments, the decades of success that he had up to that point. People were walking away from him, endorsements. He goes on this exile from social media. He is banished from the Oscars for 10 years, right? He can't even show up at the Oscars for 10 years. The place where he finally wins an award, his greatest monument to success. And Will is a self-described high achiever. And if you read his book, and if you ever studied his story, you understand that there are various reasons for his overachievement, for his incredible charisma being deployed in this way to propel him to higher heights. And you see this with many high achievers and many high performers. And the weird thing about that is, and I can say this because I was having a conversation with my coach, so I know it applies, is that high performers don't necessarily see themselves as a high performer. But the traits, the leaning in, the desire to achieve outsized success, to build monumental things, it all ties back to the fact that inside of us, there's something that's missing, something that's there, something that is calling us, pushing us, driving us to be more all the time. And some people are hyper competitive. Other people are not outwardly so, but there's an inner drive and it's pushing them. And when you hit that mark, it can feel incredibly empty. And empty by comparison, like there's a satisfaction that comes at first initially, right? For me anyway, it's presented as, oh, okay, I did this, right? It's almost like of course, this was supposed to happen, right? Followed by, is this it? Is that all? Shouldn't the angels be opening up and the heavens opening up and the angels singing with trumpets? Shouldn't there be people throwing roses at my feet? Shouldn't the world just open up and acknowledge my greatness? There's that feeling of that. And when it doesn't come, you're left with is this all there is? And the thing that's difficult for this is that most people can never admit this because it sounds arrogant. It sounds whatever. And if anybody knows me in my personal life, arrogant is one of the few things that people have never called me, right? But you can't admit that you have achieved this level of success and it doesn't feel like it means anything. It definitely doesn't feel the way that you thought it would. And what you find over and over again is that the human mind can become bored with the status quo. And so we start chasing that dopamine, that high. And so what I've seen time and time again is that these people will burn their business to the ground. They will burn their life to the ground. We see this happen time and time again. And it may not always look like burning it to the ground. It may mean going off and pursuing something else that's going to make you feel even better. You see this with serial entrepreneurs all the time. The most rewarding thing in life is not the accomplishment of the goal in terms of building the business. The most rewarding thing is the creativity, seeing that thing come to life, nurturing it and growing it, right? That feeling on the way up. It is the dreaming of accomplishing that thing that really drives us. In the book, The Molecule of More, they talk about how dopamine is thought to be the chemical that drives love and addiction. But dopamine is released in many different ways. But one of the most powerful ways it is released. Hi, Amy. Welcome to the party. Glad to have you. One of the most powerful ways that dopamine is released in the body is when human beings think of a future, of a greater, more significant, powerful future. When we have a goal that drives us, that empowers us. And so as long as we have something that we're striving towards, there's that carrot, we're going to continue to press forward. But when we land, for whatever reason, on top of the mountain, now you look around, there's no higher mountain to climb. This is the human spirit. This is our human design, that we are always striving for more. What I learned is that what we get to do is learn to discover how to come from a place of fulfillment instead of being in search of it. And that's what giftedness is really all about. If you are always chasing for more, always looking for more, you can always find more. But if you need more to be fulfilled, more will always be there. More will never be enough. I use this quote by Rich Litvin all the time. You can never have enough of something that you don't really need. And none of us need more. None of us need the next accolade to be meaningful or powerful or successful. If you need it, then you actually are demonstrating a lack of something. And you can't keep chasing it because you can never really find it. You're never really going to be able to have that level of fulfillment in something outside of yourself. It has to come from within. And the beautiful thing is that once you realize that you already are enough, that you were already created with this gift, this special, unique, and powerful thing inside of you, which I talk about in the book, I talk about here in the podcast, and the process of discovering that is absolutely attainable for any of us. But it's more than just the discovery of the thing. I talk about the dominance process, right? Finding your dominion, finding your kingdom or your queendom in this world. What is the place, the thing that you are meant to have dominion over? And dominion, taking the first three letters, dominion, discovery, ownership, and mastery. That process is the living out of fulfillment, the living from fulfillment versus chasing forward. I mentioned at the top that I had some amazing opportunities and things that came about. And when I was sharing them with people, I was definitely downplaying them. We'll see what happens. We never know. Right. And sure enough, as I went through the process this past week alone of presenting at a high level, in a high level function, of going through this other process, I came to realize, I'm sitting here in the moment and it just doesn't feel the way that you think it's going to feel. You come down from the high, the anticipation, and nothing can ever match the anticipation of what we create with our imagination. It just isn't possible, because our imagination is so powerful, and we're producing that dopamine, that euphoria, by imagining how good it's going to feel. And very rarely do you ever have a feeling that feels better than you thought it was going to feel, unless you have healthy expectations, unless you have a healthy perspective about what that means. And here's what I've discovered. then when you can come from a place of fulfillment where simply walking in your gift, simply walking in the process is enough, then everything else only heightens that experience. You're never disappointed by the results that you don't get because the results were never the point. And you're never let down by the results that you get because the results were never the point. In fact, when you're walking in your gift, the results are always inevitable. It is your responsibility to live into those things and to be as powerful as you were created to be in every moment, not just in the ultimate moment. And when we realize that, we stop chasing a thing we can never have. We don't have to chase the thing that we don't have, because we don't have to do the things that we've never done, or we're going to get patted on the back for, or we believe is going to create validation, because all we are called to do is simply to be who we were meant to be. That's what God made you for. That's what he wants for you. That's what we get to realize is the whole point. It is simply the being. And most people come from the wrong aspect of it. They believe they have to have a thing in order to do a thing, in order to be a thing. I must have $1 billion in order to do the things that I want to be able to do, so that people will see me as this person, or I will feel as though I am that person. Instead of understanding that is the wrong way around. Yes, Amy, walking in your gift is euphoric. Is euphoric because you realize I get to be who I was created to be. And when I be who I was meant to be, I can do what I was meant to do, and I can have whatever I want to have. And the thing about being in your gift, walking in your gift, is that it changes the things that you want. Because if you want things that are going to validate you, then you don't need those things, but you think you do. And so you're always chasing them. And then when you get them, it'll never be enough, because nothing will ever be enough to validate you. Nothing will ever be enough to validate you if you don't understand that intrinsically you were already created valuable enough. I like what you're saying, Shafir. We'd always ignore the fun of the process just so we can get to the result, but eventually the result always leaves us looking for more. Right. And it leaves you looking for more because more is never enough. More was never the point. What we end up doing is coming from a place of emptiness. And if you come from a place of emptiness, you can never be fulfilled. But when you come from a place of significance and fulfillment, you bring that to wherever you are doing. And then it means that much more. Because ultimately, as human beings, we are meant to be an expansion. We're meant to be creating. And creation is the aspect of bringing something new, bringing something more. It is combining elements of the quantum field, of the universe, of whatever, the physical universe, an idea. It is bringing that into fruition. It is making that thing real. But more is not a real concept, right? Because more is, it could be more money. It could be a higher number. It could be a bigger business. It can be more love. It can be whatever. But in the end, ultimately, those things are not created by having more material things. It is not a finish line. There is no finish line. As like it was a Nike slogan, there is no finish line. Well, there isn't. There is only the process, and the process is what builds us. The process is what fulfills us. Yeah. The more you walk in the gift, the more excited you are about life, because most people are living in an expectancy or a desire for something to happen one day. Someday I'll quit my job. Someday I'll be a billionaire. Someday I'll have this. We set these goals as markers for what we will be someday, who we could be eventually. And we don't have to do that, because we already have everything that we need to be and have everything that we want. Now, the having is a lagging indicator. In business, you have leading and lagging indicators, right? The gift is the leading indicator. The gift is the indicator of what your success will be or can be. The lagging indicator are the things that you get as a result of being successful. And success is not defined by what you do, but who you are being. It is the being that creates the doing, and the doing that creates the having. And so the being becomes synonymous with having. And the more you're being, the less you have to be having or in pursuit of having. If that makes sense. So hopefully this has been helpful for you, valuable, giving you something to chew on or think about. Let me know in the comments what you've been discovering from this conversation. Where can you be being more and doing less, or in pursuit of having less? What would be possible for you if you could simply be in your gift, if you could simply be excited for your life, not worried so much about getting there? As Shafir was saying, not ignoring the fun of the process, because the process is fun. Even the failure can be fun when you understand that you are not the failure. And very often, something that we don't recognize, we can see the results, but some of the most successful people in the world struggle with this, which is simply that they struggle with the idea that despite all they've done, that they're still enough. That I have to do more to be validated, that I have to keep going or I'm going to lose the validation that other people have given me, the adoration. I need it all the time. And you need it all the time because you don't feel validated. You feel empty. You feel hurt. Hey, Charlie, good to see you. All the way from South Africa. The Godfather himself. Listen, I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm really just talking to myself. Greatness is upon you. Greatness is within you. You are going to be doing greater and greater things. The thing that will stop you from doing or being the greatest that you can be is understanding how great you already are. And I'm not saying that in a motivational way. This is a very practical thing on a quantum level, psychically, psychologically, physically, emotionally, entrepreneurially, in every single way. You're already great. You get to absorb that, to live in that, to emanate that from every pore and every fiber of your being. And then you will be able to see tremendous results of what you can accomplish. And last but not least, so true, Amy. While you're in pursuit, you often don't recognize that you got everything you need. Last but not least, very rarely are we built or equipped to handle quantum leaps of success at any one time. Now, you will feel as though these shifts have been made for you. But often those shifts are very small. But the slightest shift of perspective, it's like standing behind a doorway, right? And 1 inch to your left allows you to see the one thing that is a catalyst for all other success. One thing, one shift, 1 inch to the left or to the right. But here's the thing. That 1 inch is a culmination of all the 1 inches that you have shifted up until that point. 1% a day will make you 3.5 times, 360% better in a year. 365% better, actually. But few of us have the patience to do that. If you wanted to lose 50 pounds and you tried to do it in a week, you would kill yourself. But if you lose 1 pound a week consistently, you'll lose 52 pounds in a year, and the difference will be so drastic, right? The thing that keeps you from being able to do that is the feeling that you're not winning fast enough. And because of that, You struggle with the consistency. What happens is when you have achieved massive success, it feels like it should feel so much bigger. It feels like it should feel so much better. And so you've been robbed of the joy of that moment because the entire process, you've been thinking about what it was going to feel in that moment and not how you were living into that moment all the way along the way. You already have everything you need. What you get to understand is who you were created to be. And it is the being that allows the doing. The being empowers the doing creates the having. One percent a day. I want to thank all of you who were here with me for the podcast today. Thank you for stopping by for a minute, for a second, for your comments, for your perspective, just sharing the space with me. I would encourage you, if you're someone who is looking for support in this area, support as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and living into the greatness that you were created with, and you're looking at how you can continue to expand the things that you dream of, the things that you're working towards. If you feel like you're not getting momentum fast enough, or you feel like you're stuck in whatever reason, I would encourage you to reach out, drop a comment below here, or leave me a message, send me a message on LinkedIn or Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, share this with someone that you think it would be valuable with. And I want to leave you with just this idea that no matter where you are, when you have your gift, you are where you're supposed to be. Your gift will make room for you. Your gift will provide for you. But your gift is all you need. And if you are using your gift, you're already successful. All right. Thank you for sharing this space with me. My name is Frederick Douglass Bussey. Until next time, we are out of here. Ever forward.